Bonjour, bienvenue sur French Up Your Day. Today we are going to talk about the difference between c'est and il est. There are often some confusion in using one or the other simply because they both mean it is, he is, she is, or they are. So let's have a look when to use one or the other. The context matters the most. So when you use c'est, often you use it as a word to present someone or something. So this is super important. Whereas il est or elle est or ils sont or elles sont, we usually use it as a way to describe someone or something. So one is presenting, introducing, whereas the other one is describing, adding information. First of all, you will use c'est when you refer to a noun. So after c'est, you will have a noun. Then you will use il est when you have an adjective. Okay, so that's the main rule to remember, and I'm going to give you a little bit more details. So first of all, a noun can be a thing or an object, it can be an animal, it can be a person, it can be also a proper noun. For example, Paris, la France, or it could be someone's name like Thomas or Nicolas, for example. So when you have words like this, often before that you will have c'est. C'est Nicolas, c'est Paris, c'est mon chien, c'est ma fille, for example. Then, when you use il est, we mentioned it's because of an adjective. An adjective is a word that qualifies a noun, so it gives extra information to the noun. So, for example, it can be the color, the size. So, for example, you can say il est bleu, you can say elle est petite, il est grand, elle est timide, and so forth. Okay? So, another thing to remember is when you use c'est, it's what we use for a noun that is singular. If what you're talking about is a plural noun, so for example, my dogs, mes chiens, you will use ce sont. Ce sont. So c'est becomes ce sont because my noun is plural. Then, when you use il est, it will simply depend on your subject. If it's masculine, you keep the il est, but if it's feminine, you will use elle est. And if it's masculine plural, you will use ils sont, and if it's feminine plural, you will use elles sont. And then your adjective will agree with the gender and the number. So for example, I could say elles sont blanches. And here blanche, blanc means white. Blanche is the feminine version of blanc. And then I'm saying elles sont blanches, so I will add an extra s for the plural. Okay? So now the second point is the following. When you talk about profession, religion, or nationality, you can actually refer to the noun or you can refer to the adjective. So in this case, both c'est or il est or elle est, ils sont, elles sont can work. So all depends on your structure of the sentence. So for example, I will say elle est française. Here, I want to say she's French. I'm referring to the nationality. I want to describe an additional information by mentioning the nationality, so I would say elle est française. But I could also say c'est une française. C'est une française. In that case, the idea is presenting the person as being French. C'est une française. So you can do it with nationalities, you can do it with professions. For example, il est prof, or you could also say c'est un prof. Il est prof, c'est un prof. First one, I'm mentioning just the job. In the second one, I'm presenting this person as being a teacher. Voilà. So I hope this is a little bit clear. Now we are going to move on to another point that's a little bit trickier, but I'm sure you will do well. So, often we also see c'est followed by an adjective. I know. I said il est, Usually you have an adjective after it, but you can actually find c'est followed by an adjective. Why? Because in that case, you want to give your impression. And I'm sure you know many examples already. Let me give you a few examples. So you can say c'est beau, c'est magnifique, c'est nul, c'est génial, c'est super, c'est horrible. All of these are impressions, how you feel about something, and you can use c'est plus an adjective. You can also have a fact, something that's common knowledge, or an opinion. For instance, you see an item and you want to say, wow, it's expensive. You would say c'est cher, it's expensive. You can also talk about something like, oh, this is known to be dangerous. So you can say c'est dangereux, c'est dangereux. Another important point about this is that c'est is neutral, which means that the adjective after will always be singular and masculine. So whatever you're talking about, whether it's feminine or plural, you would say c'est plus the adjective in singular masculine. C'est tout. So that's all for the theory. So how about we do a little bit of practice? Before we go ahead with the practice, let me show you two examples. The first one is the following. Voici Clémentine. C'est ma fille. Elle est mignonne, mais elle est parfois un peu distraite. C'est mon acteur préféré. Il est australien. C'est un homme talentueux. But guess what? I could also say il est talentueux. Do you see the difference? C'est un homme talentueux. I'm just introducing him as being a very talented man. In the second example, I'm just referring to a quality of his. He is talented. That's it. If I have une petite maison, are you going to choose c'est or elle est? In that case, we have to use c'est. C'est une petite maison. I know there is an adjective, petit, petite, but actually what comes after the c'est is a noun. That's the most important thing. It's une maison. So that's why we have to use c'est. C'est une petite maison. Otherwise, you would use elle est if you have the sentence cette maison, this house, cette maison, elle est petite, because after I just have petite being the adjective. I hope this helps a little bit. All right, are you ready for the exercise? I have written a few sentences in a little paragraph and I'll let you fill in the blanks with your answers, and just after we will do the correction. Okay, let's have a look at the correction. Ici, c'est mon chien. I'm presenting my dog. Here is, it is, c'est mon chien. Il est blanc et marron. I'm adding information about its color. Adjectives. Il est blanc et marron. Il est très grand. Information about his size. Il est très grand. C'est un chien très actif qui aime beaucoup jouer. I want to present him as being a very active dog who likes playing. So I'm saying c'est un chien très actif. And actually here you really have that rule with c'est followed by a noun. Il adore les gens. Il est très sociable. Here it's il est because sociable is an adjective. Voilà. Next part of this exercise is the following. Voici mon chat. Elle s'appelle Lyra. Elle est très indépendante. Indépendante, again, is an adjective. So here, I know it's a girl, so I have to use the feminine form. So il est becomes elle est. Elle est très indépendante. If I had not mentioned the name, another way to know that it's a girl, it's because indépendant has an extra I at the end. And you will notice that mignonne, the next adjective, has double N-E, which is the feminine form. And that's why we know it's féminine. So, elle est très indépendante. Je trouve qu'elle est mignonne. C'est un chat assez solitaire. Alors, c'est un chat is a noun, so I'm using c'est in front of it. C'est un chat assez solitaire. Elle n'est pas affectueuse avec les gens. I have to use elle because it's an adjective. Elle n'est pas affectueuse avec les gens. I describe her not being very... so affectueuse, it's cuddly. Voilà. En fait, mon chat et mon chien, ils sont très différents. So, ils sont très différents because I'm talking about my dog and my cat. So, it's plural. So, I need to use ils sont because différent is an adjective. It's in plural. So, we use ils sont. Voilà. Ce sont mes animaux de compagnie. And I think this was the most difficult sentence in the exercise. Mes animaux de compagnie, it's plural. So instead of using c'est, I must use ce sont because it's plural. If you want to do a little bit more exercises, I have taken a passage from the book called Le Petit Prince, The Little Prince, written by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. So The Little Prince, I don't know if you know this book, but I would highly recommend to read this book, whether it's in English, any other language, or French. It's the most sold and translated book after the Bible and the Quran. Okay, so I have written down the passage and you can fill in the blank. So let's have a look at the correction. I really hope this was helpful and you learned a few things during this video. So don't hesitate to subscribe to the channel and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.